Hey everybody, I'm Will Jones, this is SCG Reviews, and the king is dead! The King is Dead is a variable objective territory control game for 2 to 4 players, and it is great. Play takes place on a map of Great Britain broken into 8 ancestral territories. In the lore of the game, good King Arthur has just died, and each of the players represents nobles at court, all vying for the throne now that it's been left open. There are 3 basic factions in the game: the Scots, the Welsh, and the Romano-British. Now, none of the players actually control any of those factions. They're just sort of AI populations that you're trying to manipulate from court to support you in your bid for the throne. Favor with the various factions is represented by these little colored cubes. You start with 2, and throughout the game you'll be able to bring more of your choice to your side, representing your growing favor with the factions that you're courting. Play progresses in 8 rounds called power struggles that are each centered in one of these regions of Great Britain to determine which of the 3 factions achieves dominance over that location. Players in turn order have the option to pass or act by playing one of their action cards that moves cubes around on the board. Once all players have passed consecutively, that power struggle is over, settled, and you move on to the next one. When all 8 power struggles are settled, the game is over, and you look at what factions control how many regions and what players have what kind of favor to determine the winner. Now, that gameplay is unsurprising and really simple. Surprisingly simple. Very small rulebook, very few possible actions to take. The thing that makes The King is Dead such a fantastic game is the way that victory is determined. Most games, especially territory control games, are pretty straightforward in determining the victor. If you control the most regions, you win. If you have the most favor, you win. Something like that. But The King is Dead attacks from both angles. See, no player is limited to gaining favor from just 1 or even 2 factions, and everybody's favor total in any given faction is going to be pretty close to the same at any given time. And that means that which player is going to end up with the most favor of a given faction at the end of the game is always very much in doubt. And the winner of the game is who has the most favor in whichever of the 3 factions holds the most territory. The effect of that is that most of the time you end up standing on this foundation of sand. You might say at the beginning of the game, well, I have 2 favor in the Scots, so I want the Scots to hold the most territory at the end of the game. And you keep working to that end, but then one of the other players starts taking favor in the Scots, and suddenly all of the work you've done to help the Scots gain territory is retroactively helping your opponent because now the Scots like them the most. It can swing back and forth so much that nothing is ever just this straight, simple, direct line to victory. You're always having to watch your back and around corners to figure out, okay, is anybody else going to be able to snatch favor away from me with this faction that I like and upset all my carefully laid plans? And the fun even multiplies when you factor in all of the tiebreakers. I've never seen a game go to a tie in the end quite as often as The King is Dead. Probably half of all games end in a tie. Even the power struggles themselves can end in a tie, which has this extra effect of allowing a 4th faction, the Saxons, which nobody can gain favor in, to come in and take control of that territory. And there are layers of tiebreakers at the end of the game to determine who's going to be the victor in the event of a tie, and even those can change your strategy towards the end of the game. Like if you get to the end of the game and the Welsh are the winning faction, they hold the most territory, but me and one other player both are tied in favor for the Welsh, suddenly the Welsh are just scrapped from the board in importance, and the 2nd place faction, say the Scots, become the winning faction. Whoever has the most favor in them wins. This may be the only game I've ever played where the most mental juggling you do isn't about actual play strategy, it's about keeping track of victory conditions. Which is not to say that in-game strategy isn't there. It very much is, and it's actually really subtle and elegant. Every player has the exact same set of 8 action cards they can play throughout the game. Anytime they want on their turn, there's no limit to how many you can play per power struggle or whatever, but you can never draw any more or recycle them. You have those 8 actions and that's it. So your opponents, if they're paying attention, can always tell what you have left in your hand and what you can potentially do to them for the rest of the game, which adds this weird little memory element to second guessing what your opponents are going to do. This is some intense, nerve-wracking strategy that I just really, really like. If you want to, you could imagine the victory conditions for most games to be like a Price is Right wheel, where you're trying to spin it so that it lands on one particular space that means you win, and your strategy throughout the game is trying to make it land on that one space. Well then, by that metaphor, the victory condition for The King is Dead is like spinning two Price is Right wheels simultaneously, one with your right hand, one with your left, that each spin independently of one another, and the only way you win is if they both land on the same number at the same time. And you know, it is just dandy. I could scarcely be more pleased with it. It's really surprisingly easy to pick up, but deep, and very interesting. I fully anticipate The King is Dead showing up on my game night table for a long time to come, and I would recommend that it show up on yours too. And that is my experience with The King is Dead. Thank you as always for watching. Really hope you found this review helpful. Go ahead and click below to like and subscribe to us for more great videos from Stone Circle Games, and until then, have fun around the table.